Religious freedom is at the very heart of what it means to be an American. Our founders ensured its protection in the U.S. Constitution. Now, as we celebrate 250 years since America's founding, it's worth asking, how are we doing when it comes to religious liberty? Well, joining us to share his thoughts is Ryan Tucker, ADF Senior Counsel and member of the Advisory Board of Lay Leaders of the Religious Liberty Commission. So, Ryan, how's the nation faring on religious liberty in 2026, say, compared to 2025 or even 2024?
Sure. Well, there have been a number of great victories in the courts, and certainly the current administration has been more favorable. But there are still challenges. For example, several states and local governments have increased pressure on people of faith during this time. I'm currently litigating matters, for example, in Vermont, in Michigan, and Washington, where religious people and organizations have been treated less than others. And so overall, there's been a number of great victories and great strides made in that space, but there's a lot of work still left to be done.
Well, what recent Supreme Court cases have upheld or protected religious freedom? Which ones stand out to you as the most significant recent ones?
I'd say 303 Creative, that's an ADF case involving a Christian web designer who wanted to expand her business to include weddings, but Colorado law required her to create websites celebrating same-sex marriage or face penalties, and she simply couldn't do that. So she was forced to litigate. The court fortunately said that she can't be forced to speak a message that she disagreed with. They said that a government may not, compel an individual or a business to create speech that contradicts their sincerely held religious beliefs. Or you can look at cases like Mahmoud from this last term that recognize parental rights and public education, particularly the right to not have children compelled to participate in instruction that substantially burdens the family's religious beliefs. Or, two cases that I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that aren't really framed as religious liberty cases per se, but absolutely will have an impact on people of faith are the two cases that were argued this week. That's the Little case and the BPJ case. Idaho and West Virginia passed laws protecting women's sports. There are two sexes. There's male, there's female, as the Bible clearly defines. But those laws protecting those girls were challenged. They made their way to the U.S. Supreme Court. They were argued this week. And I think those cases are monumental. They will impact culture for generations to come. So I would encourage your viewers to be on the lookout for those decisions in the coming months.
And we can't forget the Joe Kennedy case there where he was allowed to pray after football
Absolutely.
games. He didn't coerce anyone to do it, but his teammates or his football team joined in on that. So any recent disappointments, though, cases where the court ruled against the protection of religious rights?
Well, I would maybe go back to the last term where we had a case called Drummond, where the issue was whether or not you can have religious charter schools. That question, fortunately, is still an open question. The court tied 4-4. The reason that there weren't 9 justices there is Justice Amy Coney Barrett recused herself from that decision. So I expect a case like that to make its way back to the U.S. Supreme Court probably fairly soon.
What effect do you think the Religious Liberty Commission is having in advancing religious freedom, and what do you expect to see in the commission report that is due in July?
Well, each month for the last half year or so, we've been holding public hearings, hearing testimony from a number of different individuals, some ADF clients, some First Amendment and religious liberty scholars. We've been tasked with researching, listening to this public testimony, and ultimately we're going to provide a comprehensive report to the president on the foundations of religious liberty in the United States and current threats to it. We're going to recommend executive or legislative steps also to safeguard those freedoms. So I look forward to the months ahead. There's a lot of work to be done, but we're going to accomplish it.
A lot of challenges with rising anti-Semitism out there in America. And Americans United for the Separation of Church and State and the ACLU contend religious liberty is being misused as, quote, a license to discriminate against LGBTQ and people of minority faith. So what's your response to that allegation?
Well, it's the exact opposite. Look, religious liberty claims arise because the government is compelling, conduct or compelling speech or compelling participation contrary to our conscience. So when we're fighting to stop the government from compelling us to act contrary to our conscience, we're also fighting for folks that disagree with us on many things, and including biblical sexuality. And I'd also add that on the Religious Liberty Commission, I'm an advisor there, as you mentioned, and we have a number of folks from minority faiths as well that are participating in those discussions.
Okay, so happy Religious Freedom Day, January 16th. Ryan Tucker of ADF, and as you say, Religious Liberty Commission Advisory Board member. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.